If you've been on social media over the last month or so, you may have come across this Elite Glute Isolator X machine, which also uses Keiser air pressure based resistance. And it's a hip thrusting / glute bridging machine. And I've never actually tried the machine, but it looks really interesting. So I figured today what we'll do is we'll just talk a bit about the machine, look at some of the specific features that it offers, and also discuss their claim that it's 30% greater glute maximus activation than other hip thrust machines. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Alex Reed, and the goal of this channel is to explore all things gym machines, exercise, and rehab. And let's take a look at this machine now. So the first feature I want to point out is it's got this little pad here that you actually hook your legs over. And I believe the goal of that is to try to take quads out of the exercise as much as possible. And it's really interesting. I've actually tried to set that up on a Smith machine a year or so ago. I put some padding over the bar on a Smith machine and a bench and set it up and did some hip thrusting on that. And it was quite uncomfortable under the back of my legs. But it looks like this one's got a little bit more padding than the setup that I did. Now, the goal of putting your legs over this pad here is to try to take quadriceps out of the exercise as much as possible. And it's a pretty cool idea to try. I think with traditional glute bridging, one of the issues is that you're going to push into the ground or a foot plate. And what that will do is you'll have some frictional force pushing back on you. And what that does is it brings a lot of quad into the exercise. And if you load it up and just do hip thrusts, you may be bringing quads in without even realizing you're bringing more quad into the exercise. So I think it's a pretty cool idea to try and think of a way that you can actually take quads out of this one. Another feature this one offers is it's got air pressure based resistance. So it's not mass based resistance, although you do have the option to put plates on it. And I think that would be really fun to try on a hip thrusting machine. I've never actually done that myself. But the beautiful thing about that air pressure based resistance with the Keiser cylinders is you can do that movement explosively and you're not dealing with the same inertial effects. For instance, if we just did a plate loaded hip thrust and we did it really fast, we'd essentially contract. That weight plate would be more or less floating in space and then we'd be catching it again at the top. Whereas this Keiser stuff is always pushing back on you. So it could be fun to try out for more explosive based hip thrusting exercises. The other point they make is their EMG testing results, which they claim provides 30% greater activation of glute maximus than other hip thrusting machines. And for me personally, the EMG results, I'm not that excited by that, to be honest, because EMG is only telling us really about electrical activity, how hard that muscle is, how hard the brain is trying to contract that muscle. But it's not necessarily telling us fully about activation. It's not telling us about contraction, and it's not telling us about strength of that muscle. So for the EMG results, it doesn't really blow me away or anything like that, because for me personally, I'd want to test it out, try the machine, play around with it, and see what I can get out of it. And I can get much better answers from doing that than I can from reading an EMG result. I can get a solid amount of information about an exercise by just doing it and analyzing it that way, which I'd actually really want to do. I'd love to try out this machine one day, play around with it and see what we can get out of it, because it does look like a really interesting piece. That's it for the video, everyone. If you've got any questions or comments, put them below. Keen to hear from anyone who's actually tried the machine, so let us know what you thought of it. And until next time, I'll see you later.